Guys, this is a tough episode to review. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, really. I mean, I've reviewed every episode of this show, and I've really loved this show. This is actually one of my favorite shows on TV. But after this episode, guys, I don't know. I mean, I really think they might have gone too far. But anyway, this is my review for UnREAL Season 2, Episode 7, Ambush. And I was really looking forward to this episode, definitely, for many reasons. One, we got the return of Adam. I was looking forward to what was going to happen there. And I was also not looking forward, but I was hoping that we'd see more of Rachel's down spiral. And boy, did we ever. And let me just say something that the first 27 minutes of this episode I was loving. I loved every minute of the first 27 minutes. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was definitely one of the best episodes of this season, and I was ready to say, UnREAL hit a bit of a path, but now it's getting back on track. And then the last 10 minutes happened, and I just don't know if the show needs to go in this area. I've said it before, this is a dark show, and they can portray these issues very well. But I just don't know if they needed to touch upon the issue of police brutality like they did in this episode. And I'm going to talk about the main reason why it concerns me, because yeah, it is kind of hard for me to touch upon that subject. I don't like to talk about those kind of subjects on my channel. I just feel it's a very difficult and hard subject to talk about. There are so many mixed feelings about it that if you say anything, people are going to berate you for it. And I do think this episode kind of touched upon that well, but it wasn't at all about that. That kind of came out of nowhere. So let's just not talk about that right now. Let's get into the stuff I did like, talking about the first 27 minutes. This review is basically going to be split in two. I'm going to talk about the first time, I'm going to talk about everything I like there, and then I'll get into the stuff I know you guys really want me to talk about, but let's just pretend that the second half didn't happen yet. Let's get in the first half of the episode, which I overall really did enjoy. I thought there was some really good stuff here, because it starts off just like the last episode left off. We see Rachel and Coleman are in bed the next morning. Coleman tells Rachel that his cousin's getting married at Martha's Vineyard, and he wants her to be his date to the wedding, and she agrees. He said it's going to be a total nightmare, but after she can spend a couple days with his family in Chillmark, she says that she'd love to go, and basically, it seems like everything is just going way too fast. These two, they've been together for literally 3 episodes, and already we're talking about them going to a wedding and things like that, and I kind of feel like that was the point. They wanted to show that Rachel has this whole fantasy with Coleman, and I think this episode is very much showing, if anything, that Coleman is definitely not the right guy for Rachel, definitely, and Madison knocks the door. Rachel tells her to go away. Madison says that there's someone there she thinks she definitely is going to want to see. And then before she can say anything else, she sees Adam right there at the door, asks him what he's doing there, and she asks what part of her not returning his calls made him think that she wanted him to show up there. He says that Quinn called him, he's entering the show for some kind of extra turn, seeks redemption kind of thing, and she asks if he wanted redemption, and he says he didn't, but he was willing to put up with it so he could see her, and she says that he has, and tells him to go. Now, we obviously knew probably the main reason he called her was to obviously, help out Rachel. What I don't like is that Adam is so hung up on Rachel this entire episode, and yes, we know that Adam and Rachel definitely had a thing, but Adam was also kind of a coward, and he definitely was very selfish, and he only really cared about himself. So this whole redemption that Adam came back with, I just wasn't really buying into. But I was like, alright, I can deal with that, that's fine, it's just a little bit of change things up a little bit, and especially for this episode it made sense. But she says that he tells him to go, so he says he's sorry he messed up, he can't believe how badly he did, he shouldn't have listened to Quinn, he shouldn't have ran away, and he knows that, and he says he's changed, and he says the past few months he's been in Africa doing charity work, traveling through villages, helping them get access to clean water. She asks what he's talking about, and he says that he wanted her there with him, he kept calling, she says she didn't want him there. He asks if this is about who's in that room, because they both know whoever he is, he doesn't really care about her, and she says he has no idea what he's talking about. He says that she's right, he says he will be back in the morning, lets her know his flight is not till Thursday, and he's not going anywhere, and I thought they set things up really well here. You could see why he's there, you could see what's going on with him, you could see what he's been up to. Very quickly, they basically told us what he's up to, what he's been, that he's really been trying to redeem himself, get over everything that happened over the season finale, and I thought they said that very well, definitely really did like that. I thought Freddie Stroma did a really good job here, it was nice to see him return, and I thought it was just a really good setup to the rest of the episode. So Coleman then wonders if Quinn called him, why was his first stop, her office in the middle of the night? Because, of course, he doesn't know the past relationship that him and Rachel had. And Rachel even tries to say that there really wasn't anything. It was just Stockholm Syndrome and that she really does love Coleman. But I think that she wants to believe that. I think Rachel wants to think that she's over Adam, when we can clearly see that she is definitely not over Adam, especially the way she acts in this episode. She talks about how Quinn shouldn't get to make decisions since she's not the showrunner to their show. She says he should talk about it more. It turns Iran, and Quinn and Booth, we see, I'm going to call him Booth because that's what they call him in this episode, they're making out in the car. She tells him to be honest if the date was better or worse than the funeral. He says at least he got to third base, and she says he got a lot further than that. Says they have a big date. They're going to have a little surprise for Coleman, and Booth says that he found him very impressive when him and Rachel pitched him at the Impact Awards. Quinn says he's an impressive, a real go-getter, and she thinks that he should definitely do something with him. He's just killing time. He'd go talk to him right now face to face. He asks why. She says there's no better time than the present, but he cannot poach Rachel because she has been working very hard on her for 3 years, and she doesn't want to wear all that good off. She's really been trying to help out Rachel, especially what she did last week, and she doesn't want her to go away, and I think the thing this episode is really trying to say, and I think the whole scene is trying to say, is that no one understands Rachel more than Quinn. Quinn's been with her for 3 years. She understands her very well, and, Rachel's been there for a while. He says he understands. Coleman's going over the script with the rest of production, and Quinn comes in. Rachel asks where she was. She said it's none of her business. Coleman asks why she brought Adam there without consulting him, and she says that he hasn't made the best decision. She brought him there because his social media stubs are off the charts, and he was Reigns Dynamo last year, but Rachel thinks he was just a pussy who got left at the altar last year, and that's all she really thinks of him as. And I think it's just really shown that Rachel's just grown more powerful, and with that power, she's grown quite bitter about certain things. There are certain things she'd like to forget, but she just can't forget something like that. I mean, you can clearly see these two definitely do still care about each other, and especially, Adam, and I think deep down she really does care about him as well, but we're just not really seeing that yet, as you can see, like I said. So, basically, Coleman, that's what she thinks. Basically, he's just, this pussy that got left at the altar. And Quinn says that he's a catch with the misfortune of falling for a heartless bitch, and every woman in America wants to screw the sadness out of him. And Booth comes in, agrees that he's a knicker dropper. Coleman says that it's good to see him again, didn't realize the two were in a relationship. He says they're going to run with Adam today, but in the future, make sure that they're all on the same page. She says they are now, unless there's a specific reason why Rachel can't work with him. She says that she's good. She says that this is going to be a fun day. She's going to go prep the ladies, and Quinn tells Booth that she'll see him later, leaving Booth to talk to Coleman, and basically he talks to him about the Impact Awards and everything, and how when Coleman offers ideas, says that he's the one he has his eye on, and they'll talk later, again, because Quinn told him specifically not to poach Rachel, and he's going to try not to do that. So Quinn catches Adam on what's going on, which I thought was well done, definitely. She needs him to, and basically find that he's there to re-energize the girls, because Darius is just kind of not motivated right now. After everything that went down with Beth Ann and Ruby, it's just too much for him. He's tired of it, and that's something I think that got very well, was the characterization of Darius, of him being tired, him not wanting to be here anymore, him just wanting to finish out the season. I think was really well done, and he asked why she really brought him back. She says she's given the opportunity of a second chance. He regrets how he left things, so now that is the chance to make them better, and he asks if it's for America. She says with whomever. She gives him a very small Speedo, and he gets in the hot tub with Angels and bikinis, and that's exactly what he does. He's in the hot tub, and everyone's oohing and aahing except for Rachel and Coleman, who are just really despising this, and they think it's ridiculous that Quinn's doing this, but Adam's in the hot tub, and we're reminded how well he just bonds with every single girl and how much of good chemistry he has with them, and they're all fighting, and he tells them that he knows it's hard, but he's been Darius' shoes. He's probably having strong feelings that he's not sure how to express. Sometimes a woman really challenges someone and it makes them want to run away because it's terrifying. The worst part is he did meet an incredible woman there and want to spend the rest of his life with her, but he ruined it. And I really think here he's trying to talk about Rachel and, really trying to give her advice. And he says he's regretted every day since he just wished he'd tune everything else out and follow his heart. And I think, here's the thing, again, like I said, Adam was a bit different in this episode because he wasn't as selfish as he was in the first season, but I think that's what we're kind of supposed to buy, that we're supposed to think that he did in fact, change. He did basically realize that Rachel is what he wanted, and he's going to do whatever he can to win her back, and he's going to try to do that. So Quinn says Rachel should screw talent more often. She tells her to give it a rest. Quinn says they need to get Darius. Coleman calls cut, and Yael hugs Adam. Now, I am 99% convinced that that whole theory that people have been having of Yael being a reporter is definitely true, because the way she acts in this episode, throughout every scene, she seems like a reporter, and the way that she's talking about Adam, talking about how she watched every minute of the season, and it was so intense, she even heard a rumor about him and Rachel. I mean, she says she's just a curious girl. I'm willing to believe there's a lot more going on. If Yael is not, revealed to be a reporter by the end of the season, I don't know what's going to happen, because especially the way this episode ends, I am 99% convinced that she's a reporter. She's still hot, and she's still, I think, the hottest girl on the show this season, but I definitely think that she's a reporter, and that's why she's been on the show. She's a reporter, she's been undercover all this time, and I think that definitely is what's been going on, which isn't going to end up well for any of them, but I definitely think she is a reporter, and basically... we see then Coleman congratulates him, formally introduces himself. Adam says he's sorry about the other night, he hopes he didn't mess anything up. Coleman says he needs to show he's not some dumb loser and won't give up, and Adam says that he can be very convincing when he needs to be. Rachel says they need to get him ready for the next scene. Coleman says that he seems shameless, and Rachel says he's a possessive, entitled man babe, as she calls it, and he says they had a thing, and she says it's buried like 6 feet deep somewhere, and he says first it was Jeremy and now Adam, and he's realizing that he just doesn't really know a lot about her, and the Rachel they thought he knew is not really the Rachel that is, the real Rachel. And she goes to Adam, says she needs to talk to him, but she's not interested in him. He needs to stop trying to woo her and get over himself. He's taking a shower in this scene, basically trying to win her over and trying to hook up and everything, and she says she's not interested. He says she knows what they had. She says what they had was a mistake. Yes, she's really trying to tell him what they had was nothing. He kissed her. She misses she never loved him. He asks if that's really true. He starts to make out with her, tells him that she's really happy, so he needs to leave her alone because she's moved on. She doesn't want to be with him anymore. He needs to understand that, and he's clearly not understanding that. Even though he would love to believe that they are together, they're not together anymore. That's not how things are, and she just doesn't love him in the way that he loves her, and he needs to understand that. So Coleman then goes to Quinn to talk about everything that happened with Booth and how he thanks her for Booth reaching out, but he doesn't understand why he didn't recommend Rachel. And she talks about how she wants to keep her because she understands her, and she thinks she's not she even says she's not capable of managing things on a day-to-day basis. And really, yeah, we saw that's true. We saw how she was last week. We saw how manic she was, and Quinn can keep her in line. Quinn is someone that can keep her somewhat sane and can keep her from doing something terrible, as we see very well in this episode. And he says she's fine, but her problem is working for a controlling, manipulative bitch. She says at least that she's effective. And I will say this right now. Coleman has no idea what he's talking about. It's definitely not Quinn. Quinn is not the problem. I think we've definitely seen that. I think it's the fact that, again, Rachel has not been taking her meds. And because of her not taking her meds, when something bad happens, it has a huge effect on her. And she really isn't admitting that she had a problem and that she's not really doing anything about it. And I think, again, that's something they showed very well throughout this entire season. It's about Rachel's addiction and how this season she's avoiding it, while last season she was trying to she was very aware of it, but she was trying to move on from it, and this season she's completely ignoring it, and that's really just made everything worse in turn. So, on Everlasting, Adam says they'll help each of them pick a date to pitch to Darius, one that reflects who they are. Darius will choose one date to go on, and they each start their own pitch. Jay tells Rachel that Darius looks like a zombie up there without Romeo, and Adam gives Darius advice to pick Chantal, and that's exactly what he does, and Rachel goes to Darius, and he wants absolutely nothing to do with her. She's saying that, he asks if she's not tired of giving this speech, because he knows that he's tired of hearing it and everything, and Adam asks if everything's alright, and, she's just doing the same thing, trying to coax him into things, trying to motivate him, and he just doesn't want to hear it anymore. And Adam says it was Rachel, and Adam asks her if she likes how he said of Chantal, and Darius, I like that Darius even asked him, why the hell did you come back here, because he wants nothing to do with this, and it just shows that Darius does not have the connection with Rachel that Adam did. Adam was someone that was able to, I think, keep Rachel from doing these things, but Rachel's now, I think, too powerful, and she's grown way too power hungry that nothing's gonna stop her. And Adam asks her if she likes how he said of Chantal. She says she doesn't care, asks if he wants a gold star. He says at least he's a good enough actor to at least pretend to care, and she says she's with Coleman now. He needs to accept the fact that she has a boyfriend. He says he's not talking about boyfriends, he's talking about them. He wants her, and she wants him, and she says to not do this now, says to meet her in her office in 5 minutes, and really, again, is just trying to tell him, look, we don't really have much of a future together, you need to understand that. And Booth is then talking with Coleman, and Rachel comes in, says she didn't know that they were having a meeting. Booth says he was just running ideas ideas with him, but he couldn't stop talking about his producing partner. It appears she's a valuable asset, which is probably why no one wants to let her go. He leaves. Coleman says he was going to talk to her later, says it was Quinn's idea. Rachel says she was trying to cut her out, and he says he wasn't going to say anything till he could get Booth to meet with both of them. She says it's fine, he could have just pitched it on his own. Says he couldn't. This is everything they want to do together, all the TV they want to make. They're a team. She then kisses him, pulls his shirt off, starts to give him a hand job, and then Adam walks in, asks if that's what she wanted to see, because again, she said that she'd see him in 5 minutes, and there he is right there, her about to give Coleman a hand job, and he obviously tells him to get out, and it's just very awkward the way that went about. I don't really know what Rachel was really thinking there, but definitely, especially because what happens a little bit later, it's not my gripe with this episode. It's not the worst thing that Rachel does, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But he asks what she means by what Adam said. She says that he must have misunderstood what she said. Coleman says if there's something going on to tell her. She says if he's gone, there's nothing going on between them for good. He says he gets it. He has crazy exes, but they don't call him at work at 3 a.m. or they show up at work at 3 a.m. Most of them, show up and they deal with it. And, that's really how it works. And he asks if she thinks that this is cute, that X is popping up, the drama, because he doesn't. He's so honest with her about everything with her and what he sees for their future. So just deal with this. And she says she will. And we then see Graham, Dan, and Madison. They're arguing over this rowboat that she wants to turn into a gondola for the date, but they think it's unsteady. And Jay brings back Romeo, and she asks what he's doing here, and he says Darius Cawley's not exactly happy with the way things are going on the show. He says he can't blame him, and it seems like Romeo's going to come back for Darius, because Darius just can't work without him. Firing Romeo is probably the worst thing that Darius did. At the time, Romeo was running with all these ideas. He thought it was a good idea, but now he's realized that he needs Romeo by his side, because Romeo is someone that will keep him grounded, and he's someone, I think, that's going to keep Darius from getting off the show altogether, because I think Darius just wants off the show at this point. Pretty much, you definitely do see that. So Adam goes to Rachel. She says she thought that he was gone. He says he was on his way back to the hotel, but then he realized he had to look her in the face and ask her why she's still here with Quinn in this place. And she says he doesn't get to judge her just because he's jealous, and he asks if he's jealous of the fact that she's screwing her boss before he takes her into the gaping hellhole. And she says that he's so much more than that. He invited her to his cousin's wedding on Martha's Vineyard, and I love what he tells her here. This, I think, was one of the best scenes of the entire episode, because he tells her to wake up. This is a place of evil and dysfunction, turning everything it touches to shit, and how does she not see that it's ruining her life? And she needs to realize that what she wants, it's just not going to happen. She has to be some moral authority now. He kisses a few babies from some photo op, and he thinks there's actually helping here. And she says the 60 million people who watch her television show every week, she has single-handedly broken down all these preconceived notions on love and race, because her and Coleman are making TV that matters, including the first black suitor. And he says he's on a fake date on a fake boat in a fake land, and that's everlasting. She's completely delusional. She thinks otherwise. Basically, I think what he's trying to say is she's been on the show for so long that she feels that this is real, and that it's clearly not real. It's all manufactured. None of this is actually going on, and we see, though, she wipes away tears and then gets back to work. She's able to, again, put on that face where she's just motivational, and you can just see she's very much broken in what's going on here. And then this is when the episode started to get bad here. This definitely is when things started to take a turn. Not just yet, but on Everlasting, Chantel tells Darius that she's going to show him she's ready to move on. She gets up, shows him the necklace that are the ashes of her fiancé. She wants him to let him go with her tonight so that her heart can be ready to love again. She's about to open the necklace, and before she does, the motor in the boat starts blowing in Darius' face. Jay calls cut. Rachel walks away. Jay asks her if she's okay. Quinn says that it's nice. Adam came back. He's fighting for her and here for her. And Rachel says it didn't work. Her plan of using Adam to break up Coleman and her, did she want, she wanted her all to herself, or did she want her to come crawling back? And Quinn says she wanted to show her Coleman for what he truly is, and she says she knows who he is. He's a showrunner, and they brought him in to replace her, and yet she's still here. She is the great guy, and she's spending all of her time here trying to ruin her life. She needs to get over her. Quinn says she won't. Rachel says she's obsessed with her, tells her to get a life. Booth goes to her. She says she'd love to be everywhere else. They go for a date, and if this was a normal episode of UnREAL, this would be the end of the episode, but it's not, and then we get into the stuff where this episode really starts to take a turn for the worst. The setup here is okay. I thought the setup for this was definitely interesting, where Darius goes to Romeo, basically tells him that they're hellbent on making him a fool, he can't have one more date, and he just wants to get out of there. He sees Tiffany and Yael. Tiffany definitely is clearly very drunk. She's very drunk, she's saying a lot of things, and, they ask why he didn't pick them, and he says he did not know. He asks if they want to have some fun, they agree to it, and this is just his chance to finally have some fun. And Rachel goes to Coleman, asks what he's up to. He says photo kills and budget approval. She says she wanted to tell him she thought he was right about Adam. She doesn't think it's cute. Says she does want change. She does want to be with him to the wedding and make groundbreaking television. She wants to do it all with him. And she asks him to say something. And before I can say anything, Madison tells Rachel that they're taking the everlasting car, which she left in there, and they get in. Rachel says they should call the cops. And right away, Rachel thinks they should call the cops. And Coleman asks her, she's talking about, she says this is the show they want to make. They have to. He says there's no way they're going to on two black guys in a Bentley in this town. It won't end well. She says exactly. He tells her to make the call. She does. And literally calls the police, calls a stolen vehicle, and this is when things just get, I think, way too much here. Coleman tells Madison to drop everything right now, get a C-cam and a van for them. The four try to have fun. They see the cops. Darius pulls over. Rachel, Coleman, and Madison are on the scene, literally filming the entire thing, and here's the thing. As interesting as this could be, this is completely getting away from what the show is trying to do. The idea of UnREAL, I think, was to really show, you know, the deep, dark world of reality television and what people in reality shows go through. I'm sorry, but stealing a car and getting arrested by cops and then going to a hospital is not what people go through on reality TV. And the next following 11 minutes are just the most ridiculous, and I think just the perfect idea of them taking a subject that could have been approached very well, but going way too far and way too over the top with it. And I'll talk about this in a second, but the cops ask for ID. Darius says who he is, and him and Romeo realize that they don't have any on them. They took all their electronics. He says this isn't part of it. He's just taking the girls up for a spin, and at this point I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting, definitely. The fact they're going to get arrested, alright, this is definitely interesting. I thought that it was just going to be them getting arrested. But again, there was a disclaimer in the beginning of this episode, which was about police brutality. I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to know what's going to happen. But in fact, the worst that you think could happen in this scenario happens, because Tiffany says one of them's going to marry him, and the cops see that Tiffany's very drunk, and they get the wrong idea that clearly Romeo and Darius, they think, drugged her, or something like that, and they tell them to get out of the car, and they get the wrong idea. They say their car's been reported stolen. They tell them to step out of the vehicle, get the situation under control. They cuff both of them. Rachel runs in, finally, to stop, which I did like seeing, and from happening, and despite Coleman telling her not to, which I don't know why Coleman told her not to, that was very out of character, and for Rachel running in, really did not go what I think they were trying to go with. I mean, I think they were really trying to show that Rachel will do anything to make good TV, and all of a sudden, she's just running in to stop the situation. I get this was kind of a reality check, but it's too late, because she runs in to stop something, despite Coleman telling her to, and the cop accidentally, let me just say accidentally, shoots Romeo. He wasn't trying to shoot Romeo. If you remember, he pulled a gun, pulled it towards Rachel, shot Romeo by mistake, and that is the one thing I do want to talk about, is that the cop did not mean to shoot Romeo. It was a mistake. I think that the cop did not mean to shoot him. He was going to shoot Rachel for running in, and he wouldn't have shot anyone, but you know, he shot Rachel. He meant to shoot her, but he shot Romeo instead, and Romeo might possibly be dead. The cop then tackles her. She falls to the ground. Coleman runs in, letting him know he's unarmed, tells him that he's been shot. They need an ambulance while the girls are freaking out, and what follows is some of the most ridiculous bullshit I think this show could have pulled off. Because Quinn and Booth are at a spa. Quinn is dodging a call from Chet, tells him that it's getting easier every time she doesn't answer. And at this point, this is the next episode. I'm like, what's going on here? This is, why are we still continuing this episode? This literally felt like the episode was just going on and on. Like, there wasn't really a specific ending here. And he tells her secret to life, delegates. She again ignores a call. She kisses him. He puts her phone in water, so it's very dirty. He tells her if they're gonna do this, there's something he needs to tell her. She's the weirdest person he's ever met. Literally says he's falling in love with her after 2 episodes, and then says he wants children, less than 5, and this is completely unrealistic, completely out of left field, and I have no idea why they're going with this. I mean, I like the idea that Booth is someone that genuinely cares for her, but why does Booth randomly want to have kids? I mean, they've literally known each other for 2 episodes, and I don't understand this at all. It makes no sense, and I don't know why they're going that direction, but Rachel's then watching back the footage, and Coleman goes to her, tells Rachel that they're watching the girls for him right now. He needs to make sure that they don't say anything harmful. Rachel says that it's her fault. She didn't think any of this would happen. He says the cops were out of line, and doesn't blame any of this on her, when literally she's the one that called the cops. A normal person would say, no, this is on you. You know, you're the one that called the cops. You're the one that wanted this to happen. You didn't stop the situation from happening. That is what Coleman should have done. But instead, he's with Rachel the entire time, and it's ridiculous. I really think it's dumb here. And again, I get that they were trying to show that Coleman wants to make great TV and that this is an example of great TV and that he, again, is not good for Rachel. But I just think that he should have not taken her side. And Quinn gets a call on her phone from the network. Gary informs her what happened. She immediately thinks this is Coleman's idea. She says she'll be there right away, handle everything. And Jay says he can't believe this happened. Madison says they shouldn't have taken the car. Jay says they shouldn't have been pulled over for no reason. Jay realizes that Rachel was the one behind this all, berates her for what she did, which, very happy that Jay did that. Probably the only good scene in these last 5 minutes, and basically he says he has been putting up with her for so long now, that is on him, but her with her bullshit first. She pat herself on the back for getting a black suit that has contestants who get treated like garbage, and now we're planning to expose how racist the police are by getting shot, and he informs her if Romeo dies, this is all on her, and this is not her story to tell, so she needs to back off because there's a very good chance everyone is better off without her. And we get this good, and it's definitely a good scene. I like seeing that guilt loom in on Rachel. All the women are begging to see Darius. Rachel walks away, sits in her trailer, and cries, and then things get ridiculous. When Adam goes to her, she tells him to just leave. He says he's sorry for what he said earlier. He was just lashing out. He tells her he's not running away. He's here for her, so let him help her. He says he knows they had a thing. He never stopped loving her. She tells him to stop. They did love each other. He left her. There was a tiny little window of hope where he could have saved her, and he didn't, and now everything inside of her is like this black little hole that's dead inside. Adam says he's here now. She starts to cry, tells him to go. Now, hysterically crying, literally kicking him, like, in the face, which, did we not just do an episode about someone abusing Rachel? Why is Rachel abusing someone? I mean, I get that she's obviously hurt, but basically, she's hysterically crying, and I like the scene where he's basically realizing he can't help her. He just leaves, but it's sad because I really thought that Adam was going to kind of be the one to help turn things around for Rachel, and really it seems like things are worse. But what I love is that this is finally a scene where Rachel realizes that she needs help. She finally calls her mother to get her out of this, basically, I kind of thought, but she also realizes I think she needs to help. And Coleman then goes to Quinn, asks her what her text was all about. Quinn says he's part of the shit show of the century. She says that he put their suitor in the hospital, he got Romeo shot, and filled her room with cops and lawyers and fires, and literally fires him on the spot, says he's done, and he says that she doesn't have that authority because she's not the showrunner. She says it's always been that way, but Gary just made it official. He says he doesn't believe her, says to just call Gary on his way home, and Coleman's fired. I don't know if he's coming back, but that's basically what we get there. Rachel's then with her mother, leaves the set. Yael then goes to Jeremy, of all people. I don't know why the hell he's back here, but he is, to get her out of this. You know, why she's trusting him, I don't know. Of course, she doesn't know what's going on. He says she doesn't know the half of it. She says to just tell her. He says he will. And again, I'm convinced that Yael's a reporter after this scene, but she's going with Jeremy. Rachel's mom then takes her to a mental institution, literally takes her to a mental institution, tells her to sit up, gives her medicine, which is how she'll get better. She says she loves her. Rachel lies her on the bed, closes her eyes, and that's the end of the episode. What the fuck? I mean, literally, this episode, it went completely nuts in the last 11 minutes. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. It was completely out of left field. I think they might have just ruined the show, but let's talk about this overall because I don't want to freak out here. I want to basically tell you guys why I think this was completely wrong. Look, guys, I've been on UnREAL's side most of the times. Most people say, oh, this show has gone too far. I've said, well, it's common for them to do this. You know, them exposing contestants or them treating contestants like shit, that's what UnREAL has always done. It's always about showing what the contestants go through and the pathos and everything. The thing is, this season, they haven't done that. They haven't shown the emotion that they're going through. It's always been Rachel's perspective. It's always been this was Rachel's doing. And here's the thing. Something like Mary's suicide last season, that was so impactful because it was the only really outrageous thing that happened last season. Really, it was. I mean, really, when you think about it, the only crazy thing that happened was, there were crazy things that happened, but the only really outrageous thing that happened was Mary's suicide, which was not at all their fault. That was mainly Shia's fault, and Shia was a character that we were not supposed to like. Rachel, however, is our main character, and even though she is an anti-hero, we are supposed to somewhat side with her, and we are supposed to feel bad for her. In this situation, I don't feel bad for her at all. I mean, she at no point tried to stop this from happening. She called the cops, she reported a stolen car, she might have just gotten someone killed, and this is not what the show should be. The show should have never covered this subject in the first place. I mean, this is such a hard subject to, you know, I think really just tackle, really. I mean, if you handle this wrong, so many people are going to attack you. Now, let me just say, I'm not going to say that, oh, they focused on a white woman, what's going on there. I don't care about their race. I really don't. I mean, if someone's black or white, it's just, I think they did do a good job of showing what they might go through. But again, that cop did not mean to shoot Romeo. He meant to shoot Rachel. I will say that. This whole situation did not even need to happen. The episode was not leaned to it. The episode was not going in that direction. It just came out of nowhere. Rachel and Colton were talking. Rachel said, let's document this on camera, and then everything went to shit. And I have no idea how this all happened. I mean, 1 second we're talking about Adam, Rachel, and Coleman love triangle, then all of a sudden we're getting this police brutality stuff. And it was so fast-paced. It was so unnecessary, and I have no idea why they went in this direction. It just felt so weird for them to do this. And honestly, look, I'm not going to stop watching the show. I'm really not. But if they don't get their act together, I might quit after next episode. The only thing that's keeping me from quitting is the fact that we only have 3 episodes left this season. But I don't know. After this episode, it's really going to be hard to watch next week's episode after this. I don't know how much worse can this get is the question. I mean, this entire season has been outrageous thing here, outrageous thing there. This is about as far as they can go. How much worse can they get? I mean, I don't think it can get worse than Rachel being in a mental institution in like a vegetable state. Yael going to Jeremy of all people, who's definitely not safe. You know, she's not safe with him at all. And Darius and Romeo in intensive care. I don't think it can possibly get worse than that. But I think they can somehow, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but somehow they will. And look, this episode didn't suck till the last 11 minutes. The last 11 minutes, I just think the one problem here is that it was very one-sided. I think that really is the main problem here. If they would have covered and shown Romeo in intensive care and show Darius in intensive care and show those aspects, I think it would have been very well done. It was mostly all focused on Rachel, who we really should feel no sympathy for whatsoever. She got herself in this situation. She completely made this whole thing, you know, a lot worse than it was, and everything that Jay said to her, she really should take to heart. The fact that he said this is all on her, oh yeah, this could get really bad. And what does she decide to do? Run away from it. She's gonna run away from it. She's gonna go to a mental institution, and I don't know if I can like Rachel anymore. I honestly don't. After something like this, I don't know if I can really enjoy watching this character. The show is supposed to be fun satire, and what happened to the fun satire that was season 1? Season 1, when it did get dark, it went back to that fun stuff. I mean, even there's an episode here where Mary's suicide, and Quinn says, oh, we're going back to this. You know, things get a bit more fun and things like that. And even though things got dark, there still was the fun in there. This episode, while it was fun, it just came out of nowhere, and after this, I just don't know how to feel about this anymore. I honestly don't know, guys. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. It's a very hard subject to tackle. I don't know why the show felt it needed to do this, but that's really all I can say, guys. I mean, again, this is a very hard episode to review. A lot went down here. A lot of unnecessary stuff went down. And no Chet either. No Chet. It felt very weird that Chet was gone. I don't know why he's not here, but he was not in this episode. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I don't know what else to tell you guys. This was so just out of left field. I don't know why they felt they had to cover this subject. I mean, it's in the tabloids. It's something that I personally just don't want to talk about because you can't talk about it without offending someone. So I tried to do the best I could to tackle this in a, way that I'm not innocent, that I'm not, insulting anyone or against anyone, because while this is a, very difficult subject, I just don't know if the show really needed to tackle it. They didn't make anything better. It didn't do anything. It didn't service the show in any way. And the show is not about police brutality. The show is not about race either. The show is supposed to be about the dark drama that is reality TV, and all the stuff they've been covering is completely unfocused from that, and they're not focusing on it enough. I mean, they do these subjects, but it's so one-sided that it's just not that impactful, and it just feels like another random thing. And that's really the worst thing about this, is that it feels just like another random thing. It doesn't feel like, oh, it was all leading up to this, or that they covered this very well. No, it just feels like another random thing that happened in what has been so far a very convoluted season. I definitely will say I haven't really griped on this season, but after this episode, I definitely will, and I don't know. I'm definitely going to watch next week's episode, but if next week's episode does not get its act together, I don't know if I'm gonna continue watching the show. I honestly don't know, guys, but I don't know, they might have just ruined the show in this episode. I was really loving this episode, but after that whole police brutality stuff, I just don't know if I can really just go with it anymore. I don't know if I can after this episode. It's just very hard to forgive a show after they do something like that. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love your thoughts on it. I will see you guys in my next, which will be for a classic movie review. It just really sucks that the show had to take on a subject like this and that all this had to happen. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.